We've heard a lot around here lately about the possibility of a state shutdown, and hopefully we've actually sort of put that behind us, and we may not be looking at that possibility. But I want to take you back to the days before the last state shutdown, when Governor McKernan was in office. Back in '92, Governor McKernan was willing to go to the mat for a cause that he believed in. Our workers' compensation system at that time was a complete mess. We had the most expensive system in the entire country. It was horrible for our business climate. Governor McKernan actually allowed this state to go into shutdown mode because he believed so strongly that this system needed reform. So while the state was shut down, he negotiated in good faith and came to a compromise. And that was the system that we lived under for 20 years, until last year with the passage of LD 1913. While the ink was still drying on 1913, this new bill was written. The only problem with Governor McKernan's bill, the biggest issue, was that it was flawed. And he knew that that flaw lay in Section 213, which is the part of the law that deals with partial incapacity. Fast forward 20 years. Former Governor McKernan and the new director of the Workers' Comp Board, Director Paul Signolfi, meet up for the first time since Director Signolfi's appointment. While he's still shaking his hand, Mr. Speaker, former Governor McKernan says to Director Signolfi, "What are you going to do about Section 213? He knew that that section, which had stayed law for 20 years, needed to be changed. And so we worked on it, and we changed it. And we came to the bipartisan compromise that was agreed upon in the second year of the 125th legislature. So I'm a little bit disappointed that we had to deal with this issue all over again. Here we are with what is almost a complete rollback to the days before that state shutdown of '92. This bill has three parts, and two of the three would add significant cost and litigation to our system, while doing absolutely nothing to help get employees well and back to work. While we made some improvements last year, this new bill, LD 443, the one before you now, would attempt to repeal large parts of that reform just a few months after they went into effect. I think it's important to note that this bill leaves intact the weekly increase of nearly $80 per week for injured workers, which was included in LD 1913 in the last legislature. What it takes out is the section that encouraged employees to return to work and may have generated cost savings to our system. Again, this law is so new that we don't even know what savings are going to be realized. We haven't even had a chance. Why is this important? Because workers' compensation insurance is a cost borne by all employers, and it is therefore inextricably linked to jobs. Higher costs for workers' compensation means fewer jobs for the people of Maine. Have we not heard this clearly from our constituents? Is that not their highest priority? While Maine has made great strides in workers' comp since '92, our costs remain among the top third of states in the United States. Furthermore, our costs for the category of injuries known as partial incapacity are higher than most states in the Northeast. Last year, as I said, we passed a bill that earned bipartisan support in both houses of the legislature. That bill addressed these problems by creating reasonable limits while also providing a safety valve for workers who truly need more than 10 years of benefits. Yes, you heard that right. The current Maine law provides more than 10 years of benefits for workers who have partial incapacity. in two ways. First, if they show economic hardship, the Workers' Compensation Board can award additional benefits. This is not a locked-in system. This is not a hard 10-year deadline. There are safety valves. Secondly, when they have suffered a serious injury as measured by what is known as the permanent impairment rating, and they are demonstrating that they are attempting to get back to work within the restrictions of their incapacity. We understand some people will never return to the same level of functioning that they had prior to an unfortunate accident. They are still compensated for that. They can earn additional years of benefits. This current law helps people with serious but partial incapacity and puts the motivation in the right place to encourage return to meaningful work, which study after study shows is important to our self-worth. It's not good to receive a check for the rest of your life if you could be out earning your own living, at least in part. It is also important to note that there is a whole other section of the Maine Workers' Compensation Act which provides unlimited benefits for a worker who is totally disabled. That's not what we're talking about here. These people can and should receive lifelong benefits. The bill before you today takes us back not only to the days before last year, when we had an arbitrary and inconsistent standard for extending benefits, but this takes us to the days before '92, when Maine's workers' comp system was a disaster. You may recall that the days before the reform of '92 were dark days for Maine, as we just heard in my low story. I truly hope that none of us wants to go back to those days, just as we don't want to have a shutdown this year. Unfortunately, the bill before you today could indeed lead us down that path. According to estimates from the National Council on Compensation Insurance, the change put forth in this bill would likely double or triple the number of cases which could qualify for lifetime benefits. That would mean a cost increase. Who's going to pay those lifetime benefits? Yes, the insurance companies, but 40% of our market is self-insured. 60% of our market is going to see their premiums skyrocket. These are real costs. This is also a cost to the state, which is self-insured. You want to try to balance the budget next year when you're paying these higher workers' compensation costs? That would mean a cost increase of between 5 and 20% for workers' compensation insurance, and you all have that letter on your desks, or you can look at it online if you don't get these circulations. Altogether, that would mean an increase for Maine employers of between approximately $16.4 and $64 million annually. That's every year, annually. Included in those figures would be some information which might be important to my good colleagues on the Appropriations Committee. Just as I said a minute ago, estimates indicate that this bill would increase costs by between $450,000 and nearly $2 million annually to the state's cost for providing workers' compensation to its employees. How much did it cost for us to give the small increases that we were able to give to our state workers? How much more difficult would that be with these increased costs? Obviously, that would be even more in the biennium. I've heard those who would seek to discredit these estimated cost increases, but I would caution you that NCCI, which the letter is on your desk, performs these kinds of evaluations for 38 states in the United States, and the Maine Bureau of Insurance relies on this data for the annual filing of rates in Maine. Make no mistake, a vote for this bill is a vote for significantly higher costs for workers' compensation insurance in Maine. Neither Maine employers nor Maine employees can afford this reckless bill. And Mr. Speaker, I would request a roll call, please.
The representative from Scarborough, Representative Volk, has requested a roll call in order for the chair to